My name is Serena Connor. I work with the Lloyds Register Foundation. So the Lloyds Register Foundation is the single shareholder of Lloyds Register, who I'm sure many of you know who and what they are. The Lloyds Register Foundation is in fact one of the top 5 largest charities in the UK by numbers, and invests in research and education to make the world a safer place. I work for a particular program within that called the Lloyds Register Safety Accelerator, and what we're set up to do is try to get more digital technology in use for safety and risk outcomes across industry. So not just in the marine industry, which I will put up my hand and say I've only been working in now for about a year, so forgive me, not an expert in this, but we are trying to get more digital technology in use for safety and risk outcomes across marine and offshore, in energy, in nuclear, food supply chains, across the whole range of supply chains, in fact. And we're doing this because we recognize digital technology really is transforming the world and the way businesses operate, but that there is huge amounts of opportunities to improve safety and reduce risk by using those digital technology particularly, and it's just not being done. And
what we do is we bring digital tech companies.
We pause the sound because you get to hear me, so no sound please.
Problem with digital technology.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. So what we do, so if anybody's familiar with Dragon's Den, we have a similar competitive process. So we set challenges that the industry tell us they would like to focus on. We run a competitive application process with a California venture capital company called Plug and Play. We source the right startups who can solve the problem, and we give those startups about £30,000 in funding to work with that challenge partner, as we call them, to test in approximately 3 months whether their solutions will work. So this is what safety technology looked like back in the 1800s. Obviously, we've made some progress since then, but as this room I'm sure totally recognizes, there is a long way to go in bringing down some of these fatality rates and injury rates, and we really believe that digital technology and data can have a role in doing this. There is already progress being made. We have autonomous systems that are helping reduce the need for people to work in dangerous situations. People are starting to use drones to go and do inspections at height or in confined spaces. We're using computer vision and image processing to be able to recognize when things don't look as they're supposed to be, when jobs aren't completely done as they've been supposed to be done. But there are some really good reasons why we're not seeing the same levels of adoption of digital technology for safety and risk as we are seeing for perhaps operational efficiencies. And so we actually did some research with Lloyds List last year, in the marine community, in fact, globally, to figure out, what are the perceptions to the barriers for starting to use more digital technology for safety and risk. And there was 3 main ones at the top there. The first is that there's uncertainty around the impact. If you don't know what you're going to get out of buying a new piece of tech, it's very hard to get the buy-in to make that investment in the first place. So the ROI, the return on investment, is unclear. Secondly, the cost of the pilot in the first place can be hard to justify. And third is, well, there's a lot already going on in the organizations, and finding, although safety is a top priority, there are other business priorities at the same time which can detract or conflict with making the investments that are needed. So those are the top 3 that we found in our research: the unclear return on investment, the cost of the pilot, and other conflicting business priorities. So that's really why the model of our safety accelerator has come about as it has. We're trying to overcome all 3 of those. What we're trying to do is create use cases that are articulated by the industry for digital technology, so that makes it more bite-sized and easy to invest. Secondly, we're reducing the cost of the pilot because the foundation actually provides funding for our challenge partners to work with new tech companies, to try something new, to do innovation, which is inherently risky. And the third is by setting the challenges as we do, we're by the industry telling us specifically what they want to focus on, we know that these are the top priorities that the industry want to look at. So we're not just sort of sticking our finger in the air and saying, okay, I think this is what we should be focusing on. We're really listening to what the industry is saying, what their experience is, what they'd really like to solve, what's keeping often their HSE managers up at night. So we run, the way our program works really is every 3 months, so 4 times a year, we set a new series of challenges. We put those out to the startup community and we run this Dragon's Den pitch style application and selection process to pick between 3 and 5 new startups to come through the program to work with our challenge partners and to test their new technology. Our challenge partners come from everywhere in the world and across lots of different industries. You might recognize Benugo up there. Anybody goes there for lunch, they're the grab-and-go cafe people. We worked with them around a challenge around food allergens, so I'm sure some of you may have seen in the news in the last couple of years, there's been some quite high-profile cases where food in cafes has been mislabeled, or there's been things that have gone on in the supply chain that unfortunately end users or customers have encountered food that they're allergic to, and unfortunately there have been some deaths. So with Benugo, we've been looking at how they can tackle food allergens in their supply chain in new ways. But we've also worked in the marine sector, in the energy sector. We're starting to work in nuclear, in food production, all sorts of different things. So challenges come from companies that are based anywhere in the world. Our startups can come from anywhere in the world, and our trials can be tested anywhere in the world. So I'll give you a couple examples, almost, of some current challenges and current pilots that we're looking at. So let's see, will this play? Yes, so we worked with PIL. Formatting is a little funny. PIL are a container ship company based in Singapore. They were interested, so they came to us and said, our seafarers are facing isolation. They are more connected by digital devices, but they're spending less time together. And actually that's making it very hard for our masters to know what's going on with the crew. How can we help the masters evaluate whether crew are fit for duty? So what Sensai, the startup that won this challenge, are doing is they've installed a basic computer and a camera system that through a 30-second test reads the micro movements of a seafarer's eye and can read fatigue, stress, and also drug and alcohol levels, which then can essentially make a recommendation on whether the seafarer is fit for duty that day. So it's a pilot. They installed it on a ship, PIL ship, that went from LA to Seattle, Seattle to Singapore, and back again. We're still awaiting what the results are, but Sensai have come, just go back, Sensai have come from developing technology for the US justice system. So in the US, cannabis is now legal in some states. So the old school breathalyzer test is no longer effective. So they needed, the US justice system has needed something that can detect drug levels essentially in drivers. And so that's where Sensai is coming from. They've also been working with fighter jets and reading fatigue and stress levels in fighter jets. So we're taking that technology that's working in another industry in a very different use case and trying to see how it can improve safety in the marine space. A second challenge that we've been looking at, less related to safety culture, but it's about, apologies for the funny formatting, about preventing fires on cargo ships. So this was a challenge about how to use the thermal runways, basically small micro changes in the temperature around, say, a vehicle on board a cargo ship, to detect anomalies sooner so that crew can get down and, go back to that one, don't know why I was skipping that. The crew can get down and intervene before a fire starts rather than having to wait till smoke is already being picked up by the fire management system. And the startup that's won this basically have a very small, very, very cheap, so cheap it's disposable sensor that's about the size of a US penny that they're going to install basically one per vehicle on these ro-ro vessels to learn what's normal in terms of temperature around vehicles and be able to detect abnormalities and therefore predict if there's going to be a fire so that the crew can get down and intervene for that. And I'll use this as the final one. It's about, this actually comes from the energy industry, guys who go out and work on electricity grids, who already as part of their normal day-to-day take pictures of their job site before and after they do a set of jobs. And at the moment those photos are reviewed manually, i.e. somebody looks at them a couple of weeks after the guy's gone and done the job and says, oh, you know, this cable has been mislabeled, this casing hasn't been replaced properly, the cable hasn't been buried properly. And by that stage, it's possible that there's been a public safety risk in that somebody may have come along, just a member of the public may have tripped over a exposed wire, or somebody may have come to do a second job on that same piece of equipment, and if the cables have been mislabeled, the red wire is the blue wire is the red wire, obviously that's quite dangerous. So what this startup Number Boost, who are based in South Africa, have done, have built an AI computer vision model, which can look at what's correct in the image database and identify where errors have been made automatically. So now, instead of taking the before picture and taking the after picture and then waiting a couple of weeks for the results to know if the job's been done correctly, the guy who's out doing the job can simply scan it using his iPad and it will automatically read from the scene whether the job has been completed or not. So I think I'll leave it there for now. So we are open to other challenges. If anybody, there is no silver bullet for safety culture, but if you are interested in finding a challenge, perhaps for your organization or for your industry, that you'd like to get some new creative ideas from startups that are possibly coming from other sectors involved in, and you're interested in running a 3-month trial with a startup of your choice, please come talk to me and I can tell you a little bit more about how the program works, what problems are appropriate for the safety accelerators to solve. It has to be safety and risk related, and it also has to be digital. But I'd be very happy to tell you a bit more. Thank you very much.